Well, to borrow a phrase from one of my favorite chicken joints, it's bow time. He's back. Bo Bryan is with us again. No charge for that one, Mr. Benton. You like it?
I like
Sometimes, you know, the blind squirrel gets a nut.
You're good.
I knew nothing about the roots. I mean, I did. It just wasn't called that where I grew up.
Well, we got to do a little education right now before we get to the bow man.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's do it.
How to speak Southern. Yeah. Put on your hat.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we've been doing this here for the last, I don't know, few days or so, weeks maybe.
Need something to drink?
Yeah, hey, Delaney, could I have some coffee, please? Could you put a little caffeine in your sweet daddy? I'd appreciate that so much. It'd wake me right up.
Sweet daddy.
Sweet daddy. I can say it like I did on the radio.
I know
Sweet
I do.
daddy. Yeah, but I got to do the southern thing. All right, let me get back into character here. All right, our southern word for today is cut the fool.
Cut the fool.
That means to behave in a silly or foolish manner.
Right.
Quit cutting a fool and do your homework, Jack.
All righty. I've been
And
told
that's-
that before.
That's our word for today.
I can almost hear those words right now.
Yeah, almost
Stop
like
cutting the fool and talk to Bo.
you know, I may as well just go ahead and start talking like Strom Thurmond.
You know, I tell you what, everybody, we got a guy here named Bo Bryan. He's a good old boy, old Bo Bryan. I knew his daddy.
All right, now we got some.
You
more
got a Strom
stories to
Thurmond
tell.
story? You don't need to tell it.
I don't. I'm not gonna tell it.
Okay. That means yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't tell everything.
No, we don't want someone to put the roots
Yeah.
on you.
It's certainly not Strom Thurmond from where he's sitting.
No.
The flying place.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we briefly touched on that at the end of our little conversation with you, and that is unique. So Myrtle Beach is the flying place.
Well, the cultural history of Myrtle Beach has been completely overlooked. Myrtle Beach is perceived as a honky tonk, as a
Redneck Riviera.
redneck Riviera, and that perception, after all, is richly deserved in a way because the carnival did come to town.
Yeah.
But before the carnival came to town, most people know of a hotel called the Ocean Forest.
Right.
Well, the flying place, this historical fiction that I've written, takes the fact of that hotel and imagines how the idea for it actually arrived in the heads of the people who built it. Now, John T. Woodside was the leader of a textile family out of Greenville, I believe, or Spartanburg, and he'd gone into the hotel business, but he somehow met he was a Wall Street dandy named Albert Allen Ainsworth. You ever hear that name? He was an extraordinarily beautiful man. I mean, he was a very pretty guy. And John Woodside was also a beautiful guy. Now, somehow or other, they came in contact. And the upshot of it over a very short period of time was the acquisition by John T. Woodside of 55,000 acres of land. He bought it all from the Burroughs Company. Well, they sold it because the boll weevil was loose in the cotton fields, and there'd been a drought that had gone on for 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
And they were leveraged out. They borrowed all the money. The value of agricultural land was way down. So they had borrowed all the money they could, and the business in Myrtle Beach and in the county as a whole had become dependent on the improvement of roads, especially the road running north and south through Myrtle Beach. There were no bridges here. I mean, in the 1920s, there was still no electricity in Myrtle Beach. If you wanted to feed a baby milk in Myrtle Beach, you had to bring the cow, and I'm not exaggerating.
Right.
You could either bring the cow on the train or you could rent one from my granddaddy.
Oh yeah.
That's the truth.
Yeah, milk
That's
or
the
us.
truth,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was getting ready to say,
Right there.
everybody
Got
cows
milk?
are
He
us.
does. Now I need some.
That's
Yeah.
the truth. Anyway,
A titillating experience.
Myrtle Beach, though, for a short while, was conceived as the most luxurious resort in the country.
Well, the crack, was it 29, the market crack? Did that like put the damper? Was it called Arcadia?
Arcadia executives were the group that came together to build the hotel, and Arcadia was the name they gave it. Now, Arcadia is the spiritual realm, the heaven of classical Greek mythology.
Okay.
Arcadia, and what they imagined from it, for it, in my deductions. Okay, I've read a good bit about the times and so forth. Well, the hurricane of 1893 destroyed the forest out on the coast was also the year of the World's Fair in Chicago,
Okay.
the Chicago exhibition. They built what was called the White City in Chicago out on the lake for that exhibition, and it was the most visited tourist attraction ever in the world. Still to this day, over 1 million people paid to walk through it in a day, in a single day. Well, the White City was a neoclassic sculpture of, I don't know, they had like 200 buildings out there. It was an attempt to recreate ancient Greece and the Acropolis and all these neoclassic buildings with the columns and all, and the stately structures. They were all built out of wood. They were nothing but facade in Chicago. But everybody who was anybody in the world visited that. It was the first time that electric light had been prominently displayed in public.
Right.
Wow.
They lit up that thing at night. We're almost out of time again, boys.
You've already told your whole book.
Well,
Bo,
no,
now
this
nobody
is
needs to
just,
buy it.
this
I
is
guess.
just an element of it.
No, I know.
This,
You've got
but,
plenty.
but
of stuff.
how Myrtle Beach and my grandfather, who was the first president of Myrtle Beach Farms and the first president of Chapin Company, how he devised to rise from a destitute childhood to become the head of that company, and he handled Burroughs and Collins' business at the beach in the earliest days. So that was the impetus, the reason I took up this story.
Before we even started developing here, though, the Wall Street, I mean, the people that were what we would call the 1%, they knew about this place. They hunted here.
Well,
I mean, Churchill
in
came.
in 1905, Bernard Baruch,
Yeah,
who was the
Hobcall Barony, which is down
well,
there.
he was called the Lone Wolf of Wall Street because he was the first individual to buy a seat personally on the New York Stock Exchange, and he did that with money that he earned. His first fortune was made in the sugar commodity. Okay, sugar was traded in Chicago. A man named Simeon Brooks Chapin Company.
Yeah, when you said Chicago, I
Well,
thought of him.
Yeah, he's,
Simeon Brooks Chapin was the maternal grandson of Danforth Armour Meats, controlled the Chicago stockyards. He was a maternal grandson, so the old man didn't take him into the business as he did his own progeny. Chapin, although I can't find any record of it, but I'm certain that Chapin and Bernard Baruch came together in Chicago. Chapin was a commercial banker. He backed plays on the commodities exchange. His bank did. He came in contact, I'm convinced, with Bernard Baruch. During that time, Baruch made a fortune in sugar. 2 years later, after Baruch bought his seat on the New York exchange, Chapin left Chicago, moved to New York, bought him a seat on the exchange, and they became neighbors on Fifth Avenue. Now, you tell me that's all coincidence, but you can't find anything in Horry County history says Brooks Chapin and Bernard Baruch even knew each other. And the same's true of the Hyatt, the Huntington family. So my book, this Flying Place book, marries those threads in a story that nobody's ever told it this way.
Right.
I mean, there are a lot of versions of how Myrtle Beach got started. This one is magical the way Myrtle Beach is magical, and then the trilogy goes on to the second book is called Love Potion Peanuts, Guaranteed Results. And it's about the kids that sold peanuts on the streets. And then the third one is Razor Blade Ballerina, which is the story of rock and roll coming to Myrtle Beach and how Cecil Corbett and the Beach Club and all of that launched another era.
Well, how do we get these books?
Well, you're going to have to wait. They're all in manuscript right now.
All righty.
Yeah, but the group's coming together to produce all that. And, man, if you'll have me back, I'll keep you posted.
Oh, we're going to have you back.
Want to keep you back.
Don't worry about that.
All right.
You know, it's funny when they closed up the Chapin Company grocery down. Remember they charged the whole shopping center.
Yeah.
They closed. They had a little deal where you could come in and buy a bunch of little things. You know, the shelving and all this stuff. I went up in the attic, and I found a huge mirror. And so I'll take that, $50. So I bought the mirror, took it home. Come to find out it belonged to Simeon Chapin.
Really?
So they came and got it.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't
Are you
get to keep
serious?
it. Yeah, I didn't get to keep it
They
long.
were Indian givers?
Yeah, they took
That's
it back.
reprehensible.
Well, they called me up, Deacon. Look here, man. You know, I know we gave you a pretty good deal on that mirror, but we come to find. I mean, I was digging, and they said, but we think that belongs to Simeon Chapin. We can't let you keep it.
Oh, that's great.
I said, do I get my money back?
I always wanted that map that was down in the office that had the crank. Because there were so many. Remember that, Jim?
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff.
Buddy.
Man, Bo, good seeing you, buddy.
Good seeing you.
All
Jack.
righty.
Yes,
Enjoy.
sir,
Yeah,
brother.
you guys
We're gonna
sign
bring him back.
something and,
We gotta get him back.
Yeah, while he's
No,
autographing
we gotta make him
something.
part of the show, I guess.
It's coming out of
Maybe
your
he can,
pay.
he can sit in when I'm on vacation.
You pay him. We got to check out this feature now from the Oaks.